It is a very large turret. There's so much more space here. Holy hell, you have an 88!
Yes, we have a flak 88.
You have a flak 88!
On the wheels.
On wheels.
Now here in the second episode, we are back in Kristiansand at Fort Vara, the second biggest cannon emplacement installed during World War II, and one of the biggest casements that was ever built to encase one. This fascinating fort has a lot of secrets, and we're going inside the turret today. I'm going to try to show you how everything worked, and also the enormous bunker underneath, where the 55 crew supported this huge cannon. And since Lost Battlefields very much is about details, you can look at the original gas seal that is still here, that is still working. They have all the original fixtures that are still in place that look the way they would. Although remember, the Norwegian army military took this into use way up until 1951 as part of their defense against the Soviet Union. But notice the details. This is amazing.
I love the authentic switches. Oh yes, I'm putting my ice cream. This already now I can see have a different setup than the one in Hemsholm. This is different.
And I find that interesting because the fort in Hemsholm was serving the exact same cannon but had a crew of almost 90, whereas here the fort is smaller with half the crew for the same armament. Inside the bunker you had 4 rooms for storage of ammunition. 2 of them were for the powder charges, 2 of them were for the shells, 1 room for high explosive shells, and 1 for armor piercing. There was also crew shelters, radio rooms, water power generator, all the creature comforts you need to fire shells at your enemies.
Change the lanes of the munition. You have the double-sided room I was seen before. A very nice display of rangefinders. They have a very nice display of rangefinders.
And if any of you have any idea where to find one or have pictures of an 8-meter or 12-meter rangefinder, please let me know. Several of us are looking.
As you would expect on a battleship. Years on the gates. You can place the shell or the powder bag and transfer it. So this part is definitely the same. Now with the blue and yellow marking explosive or armor piercing.
If you take a look at my videos from Fort Hemsholm that was equipped with the same type of cannons, the layout is slightly different than here, which was quite interesting.
For the powder bags, Drake, you may get a kick out of this. This is the calculator for the large cannon. Windage, distance, elevation, air. This is really cool. This is what they would use to the targeting computer. That's very cool. Crane for the projectiles. And here they have a nice display of smaller projectiles for various weaponries. And it's nice that they're color coordinated so they know what is exploding and what is armor penetrating, because that does make a difference. So for the Felt 7.62, the Felt field gun, you had a 10.5 French model, a 12.7 practice grenade, training grenade, 15 centimeter, both practice and training, 15 centimeter. Well, you also have a flare, not a flare, but what's that called? 17 centimeter, which is getting up there, 21 centimeter armor grenade. And then of course you have the 2 puppies that you shoot here at the fort. They're nice. the height of the shell. I will not have any height jokes in my show. But, and the explosive is, we're looking at plus 6 feet, 6'11", almost 7 feet long. Rails here as well. But these two puppies, taller than the door. Another munition room with more grenades. And there's a lot of grenades that were left behind here that was never fired. I don't care if you agree with the message. Original bunker art is original bunker art and original fun. When we work on Harleys, we have not yet gotten to the point where we need these size wrenches. And here are the powder bags that will be loaded into the chute. And again, the casings that I should have a few up because they would make really nice tables, right? Crane. I love this. And I love that I can walk around and look at this stuff. And if I take one of these, I'm sure he wouldn't notice. It's like on the ferry maybe, they'll wonder what the hell I'm doing. These are the powder rooms.
All right, has anybody since your grandmother used the term powder room? Really?
The authentic bits and pieces that was here. And there's the chute for the powder canister that will not come out and be rolled onto the slide till last minute because we did not want anything unnecessarily to flash and go very bang. And I understand why they only polished one of them because, oh, this would take a lot of work. A lot of brass in that thing. So this is the parallel walkway into the powder rooms where you can walk between the powder rooms and the magazines. And then you come out into the actual fort here, where the entrance is. Where there's a couple of shells sitting on. Now you will notice how close together the wheels are. So they actually managed to just get on the turntable and make that narrative return. They're long enough for the shell, but the wheelbase is so narrow. The pump room. Fort is around a NATO will attack. The battleship ever closes in, you can roll out the ship line. Apparently all of these forts needs to have a naval capacity. Yes, I'm kidding. I'm still saying I have a beautiful ashtray made of two of these that my great-great-grandfather defused during World War I or after World War I. It's a very heavy brass ashtray. So here you'd have communications.
Normally the communication between the gun and the command post was done by telephone, but the radio could be used if the telephone links were severed.
Of course, communication would be extremely important. And here, again, klima, air. This is exactly what it was. All the details on the wall. You remember when you make World War II movies, gotta get the details right. Or just shoot in the location where it took place, because it's a lot easier than rebuilding this.
The fort was connected to the local power grid, but in case of an outage or sabotage, there's a 200 horsepower generator that will be able to power 2 of the cannons. All the individual cannons had a backup generator, and they were also connected to each other, so one generator could power 2 guns.
Now remember, when we are at Fort Ibn Amal, or we're at the Maginot Line smaller fort, they had more engine power than this, but they had to feed 300 people. Here, one enormous gun had to be powered. And I'm pretty sure there's some juice coming out of this thing. Can you take the authentic sink as well? Because it's there, and that's cool. I have nice displays here, and surgical displays for the doctors. Uniforms, and yes, it does get cold out here in the winter, I tell you. This looks like an authentic stove that's sitting here. What is that? What do we have in here? Oh, water or gas. More of these tanks, 1,300 liters each, 5 filled to there. It's a very nice detail. Nice detail that all these are here. They really did a great job of displaying this and keeping it authentic.
These tanks would hold 10,000 liters of diesel.
Still, the old stove, I kind of think that's kind of cool. It'd be a hot plate. Here's the cooling water tank. And this is something we've seen in the East and the bunkers that were destroyed. Of course, they left these in place and they just crumbled. And we see what's left of the remains of these cooling water tanks.
So the water storage tanks and pumps that would keep pressure for the toilets and the sinks.
Back there, I was wondering if there was a lid. There's not. Well, there's actually water in it. This is very cool. So there is a lid over them, but this is the cool water, which, well, I do not want to drink. But it's neat that those are here, because you don't see them in a lot of bunkers. The scrappers will take the metal first. Oh, everything as we saw in Poland. This is just amazing. And I don't get excited very easily. I'm a very melancholy type of person that don't get excited and, you know, take things in strides. But knowing that up here, above these hatches, the actual cannon is in place, does make me just a little bit giddy. So this is the dolly that would traverse the cannon. This is underneath the cannon that is sticking up above us, and this is how you would move it around, swivel the gun. On what looks like four little railroad, two railroad cars, of course at an angle, so they could go full round.
These are also the ammunition elevators.
This is underneath the cannon. Cannon is up there. And we are so going up there, and I am so digging this, because where are you going to find anything like this?
I'm going to spare having you watch me crawl up this ladder with a backpack and a camera.
And then here, you see the canal on the back of the cannon that is also running on rails. So you have wheels pushing it from below, and here and then it pivots on the center. So it pivots on here.
Guns were actually just sold off as scrap metal. So all the guns that were here, they were, of course, the three big ones, the 3 and 0.8, because it was missing the barrel. The 2, 3 and 4, and what was built of number 1 was sold off as scrap metal, along with a lot of anti-aircraft guns. There were about 18 smaller cannons all around the fortress, which was chopped up and sold as scrap metal. The last shot that was fired from this gun was actually in '57. It was kind of like a ceremonial thing, because the fortress was now being taken out of military use. The big guns had been outdated with missiles and airplanes, and everything was much more effective. So the era of the big gun was essentially over, coming into the '60s. So the last shot that was fired was from this gun, and in 1957. But before that, when the Germans left in '46, the Norwegian Coastal Defense branch took over all the German fortresses. The threat was now, of course, the bear in the east, Russia, and the Cold War and everything. So the fortresses were put into the Norwegian army, and still a very essential part of the defense against what they thought may be a Russian invasion sometime.
I mean, you wouldn't want a direct hit on here, just the same. We're gonna get the Norwegian flag because we are in Norway, and I love Norway. Did I mention that before? Just to give you an idea of the gentleman standing down there, just exactly see how big this is. It's amazing to actually walk in this restored, functional, to actually see it. You see so many of these ruined and destroyed, but to actually see it here in place where it's supposed to be.
The cannon was directed by a 12-meter rangefinder on the small island out front of the gun, on the island Flekkerøy. There was 19 people in the turret when it was fired, none of them wearing ear protection. Don't know why. Yet the blast was so large when the guns were fired that on the island out front they'd have to open all doors and windows for them not to shatter from the blast.
Construction. It's down below. It's putting machinery. The wheels, of course, came down here. There you have the rails below. And that's why you have 2 rails. You have one for the cannon to pivot and one for the munition delivery. And the munition cart would come in here, the shells would come here, then the shells will be placed here and brought up to the gun in the lift. So you could fire faster. You would have multiple of these munition carrier carts, and you would have 2 lifts on the actual gun. And of course, walkway is a full 360, well protected from above. we're not walking it now that we're come this long away. And here we go into the actual gun pit underneath the actual cannon. That's something to see. Look at this. So you can access the cannon from different positions. Different access ports. Cannon. Of course you gotta have engine vent because there would be a huge motor inside moving this when it needed to. There's the inside. The upper inside. As the cannon and turret sits there, it weighs 337 tons, with the barrel weighing 110 tons in itself. When preparing to fire, the propellant charges and the shells would be brought out of the magazines, onto the dolly, and into the lifts on either side of the cannon turret. They would then be brought up individually. The shell cases, the shells, and the powder would then be assembled behind the turret, behind the breech, and shoved into the gun piece by piece. Here next to the cannon would stand a man that would adjust the height of the gun, while on the floor below him would be a man adjusting the bearing of the gun. They would both get their instructions from the command post at Flekkehøy. Now, one of the things you may not know about these giant naval cannons is this is a cannon barrel insert, 12.7 centimeters. They would use this to fire lighter training charges to reduce the wear and tear on the actual barrel. The actual 38 centimeter barrel would have a lifespan of about 250 rounds, whereafter the rifling would be so worn that they would have to reduce the charge by 10%, and eventually the lining of the gun would have to be changed. It's estimated that for each full-size, full-powered shell exiting the barrel, 250 grams of steel would be taken out with it. Imagine that. So the practice shells were only 28 kilos or 12 kilos of propellant, as opposed to the 800 kilo shells with a muzzle velocity of 960 meters a second. The large shell would reach 42 kilometers distance in 103 seconds with a maximum track height of 15,000 meters. There was also a 500 kilogram shell that had a muzzle velocity exit of 1,050 and would reach out to the full 55 kilometers with a maximum track height of 20,000. That also means that the targets at the receiving end of this gigantic cannon would absolutely have no chance of hearing or seeing any flash or any sound until you heard the shell come whistling in at you. And I'm telling you, from having been sitting under the artillery trajectory, it is a strange, eerie sound to hear shells pass by overhead. Except when they pass by overhead, you know they're not aiming for you, so that's a good thing. This gun had fired its main shells about 70 rounds in its entire time of operation. The last time it was fired was decommissioning in 1957 by the Norwegian Army. The battery was also incorporated after World War II in the Norwegians' defense, as they were now preparing to deal with a possible Russian invasion. When the gun had been fired, it
would swing in over the bunker roof, and it would take the entire crew 2 full days to clean it and prepare it for firing again. In Norway, there were over 400 cannon batteries lying in the coasts facing England, with over 1,100 cannons ranging in size from 10.5 all the way up to 40.6 centimeters. And if you counted other AA guns, such as the 20mm, there was 2,500 guns slung along the coast as well. These 280 of these batteries were coastal batteries. It's not without reason Germany called Norway Festung Norweg. At the end of the war, there was a staggering 377,000 German soldiers stuck in Norway, which always boggled me. And yes, you did hear me say 14.6 centimeters or 16 inches. There's still one left. That's one cannon, one number bigger than this one. And don't worry, I will go take a look at it and film it for you guys. Incidentally, this is called Battery Vara, which was named after a German engineer that died during his transfer to the Channel Islands, hence the name.
We've seen a few battleship turrets. This thing is huge. Never seen one with this much room. You could put up a dining table here. It is a very large turret. There's so much more space here. Of course, also the computers to calculate shot. That was not done up here. This was purely loading, assembly of ammunition, pushing the breech, and everything else was done from somewhere else. This cannon is larger inside than my entire apartment. And probably my parking too. But this is, there's plenty of room to work. Even with the breech and moving parts, there's room to work and maneuver in here. That's amazing. It really, really is something worth seeing. The elevators help bring up the munitions. Of course, information, communication, ramrod, very large. Looks like several piece ramrod and an enormous breech. And with the munitions elevators. And this whole cart is on wheels, so you have room to move forward to the breech on these wheels. Again, there's a lot of space. This is a very large room. This is very, very cool to see. Simple communication. I'm very, very glad that I took this trip to come up here to Movig and see this. And of course you have down below, you have there you can see the pedestal. And there'll be no reason for there to be any kind of protection from below.
And before Steen, the historian here at the fort, wants to show me something that's really special that you don't get to see, I wanted to take one more look inside the barrel. Just take a look at the rifling. Remember what I told you, for every full-size round that would come out through this barrel, it would shave off 250 grams of steel from the inner lining of the gun here. That really is amazing. And just for comparison, since most of you don't have a chance to travel like I do, I wanted to show you a quick video we did at the USS Alabama, just so you can see how the inside of a battleship turret look. And besides the two idiots crawling around inside it, take a look at how cramped it is. Let's go inside the turret.
Going in.
Going in.
Ah,
See, now I see the, oh, this is cool.
Now the cool thing is you can go forward and you get to see down into the, they spot it here, and then one guy will fire it, and what it does, it has a lens out either side, and basically it uses binocular vision at a wide angle to determine distance.
And I do believe that most of these ships with these enormous cannons, the firing sequence was offset just by a few split seconds, because if we fired all 3 barrels at the same time, they would actually disrupt each other. Infantry lead the way. So this is where the powder and the shells come up from below the deck, gets assembled in the breech, and are hurled towards people we definitely do not like.
So this cradle is lowered into position. The bags of explosive charge would come up through the doorway and into the cradle, and then be power shoved into the barrel to be fired.
You're hiding a 10.5 in here.
Yes.
Outstanding.
We have to hide it, because if we leave it out, then people will dismantle it and steal the parts. And we're working on getting this exhibition.
Holy hell, you have an 88!
Yes, we have a flak 88.
You have a flak 88!
On the wheels.
On wheels! You need to lock this door more.
Yeah.
You never see these.
So don't tell anybody.
Yeah, about that. Alright, we're definitely not going to show what this building is. So was this installed on one of the casemates out here?
No, this I think is moved from Odderøya, inside in Kristiansand.
Yeah.
They have some, all along the coastlines you would find these 10.5.
Yeah.
This is like, yes, not everything belongs here. As you can see, this is a Orlikon. This is one of your guys' guns, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, that looks familiar.
Yeah.
There you go, Drake. It's not a bad gun.
No, it should
Okay.
do the trick.
And a goulash canon.
Field kitchen.
Field kitchen.
Yeah. Old, I can't remember the name in
Projectiles.
English. What would you call a generator? Is that
Oh yeah,
the word?
this?
Backup generator? Yeah, that is some sort of a
Yeah.
generator. Then you have light.
The
leads.
bed light.
More generators. Big one for this.
Ooh. Yeah, every searchlight had its own generator.
Yeah, at least the big ones. This was, as you can see, mobile. It's one of the rare ones that are still left intact with wheels on it.
Yeah, I know. Did you restore this, or did it just never get?
It's been it's not been restored, but it's been painted and cleaned and.
They look like they would work.
Yeah, this one would work. They have some old guys, retired
God bless old
mechanics,
retired
and,
guys.
yeah, that are working on it.
I knew there would be a train that would run.
Yeah, this is our train. We use this usually in the summertime. Now we have to have the gearbox to Denmark to fix it. And since Corona, we haven't been able to run it this year because the trolleys are too tight. But hopefully next year we will run our train again.
Oh yeah, it'll be over after the American election. Then there won't be need for it. Is this 10.5 too?
I'm actually not sure about this one. He hasn't told me, the old man. But it looks similar in...
I like the mounting, because a lot of the bunkers you see the mounting screws
Yeah.
matching.
Yes, you can just put it back in place.
Which is funny because the Germans used a lot of different captured munitions, so a lot of the mounts are just a little different than other mounts.
Yeah, sure.
Wow.
Anti-aircraft.
Very smooth. Very smooth. They worked on this.
Yeah. And you can, now it's placed, but on the other side you can move it sideways.
Of course, yeah.
And trigger man was here with the trigger on the pedal.
That's cool.
It's amazing. So we're working on getting this out to the public as well. We just We really should have some better locations for it, but it's.
I mean,
not
this
bad.
this house you built to house the train and
Yeah, mostly for the train
Yeah.
and the tractor and things, just like a utility shed. But when we have all these guns, then we have to place them somewhere.
could you? I was going to say no, you can't. I was like, going to place them inside a, but you can't do that because you can't get them in there without taking them apart, and that's a nightmare.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about. I think it was security because I mean something like an original '88, you really want to protect and keep safe because.
Yeah, I know. It's very rare, and supposed to make them unusable, so weld them up.
Could we please stop destroying historical icons?
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
I mean, where in the hell are you going to find a shell for an '88 anyway? Well,
Yeah,
okay,
I know.
I actually know a couple of. Never mind.
Of course, but you don't have.
I mean,
you don't have the shooting mechanism either. You don't have the trigger, and
Is this the turret from a 38T?
that's a turret from a I don't know the make, but the Checo.
The Czech.
Yeah.
That's a 38T.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine. He has. Well, that's all he has. He has the turret for a 38T, but half of the body's missing.
All right.
So he was looking for a body,
Yeah.
and here you have it. Well, another turret. So this was put on as a casemate.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. I mean, the 38T played a good role in the Battle of France. There was
Yeah,
over
absolutely.
200 of them. It was not a bad turret, although it was ribbeted, and we all know that rivets don't react well to heavy gunfire on the inside. But it's cool. It's really cool that you have one. That is very neat. That's such a neat collection.
When they decommissioned the fort and decided to sell off all the guns as scrap metal, then one man had the vision to say, no, we need to keep at least one of the guns intact so that we can show people what was here. And this is such a special type of weapon that this needs to be left and viewable for generations to come.
And
So
the Germans
we're
left
very
you
lucky.
1,000 rounds.
Yeah, they left us a lot of ammunition. All the bunkers were full. All the ammunition storage is 2 ammunition bunkers, which takes about 200 tons each. They were full, and on top of that, it was about 700 tons of ammunition just lying around outside in different heaps of grenades. These are 800 kilogram shells that was just lying all around because they didn't have room for it.
Did we all pick up on how cool it is that they have an 88 here? That's cool. Having an 88, really cool too. We gotta help these guys build a big museum for the artillery they got hiding in there. 88s are rare. That's cool to see. Big guns, small guns. There's a flak tower up there. I think we should go have a look. And that's for the 3rd episode next week.